Nag-break na kami sa nobyo ko.
Kakapoy ba rin pag-uliyawa? Huwag kapoy makaon?
Sabi! Naghang yakoy ako po sila.
I failed my nursing exam. What do you expect?
Ay sos! Sa mga aliugong nag-away na po mo nila. Amo na ba na problema? Gikapuisan ko tanawa. Hugaw kaayo, daghang hugason. Gusto na po. Wa na po.
Oo, tama na. Puro kayo reklamo ito. 500, kasya na yan. Pang Noche Buena natin. 1900s naman.
This Christmas, we look back to the 1900s, when Filipino families gathered in wooden kitchens filled with the aroma of slow-cooked homemade Noche Buena. Every dish embodies a story of family, tradition, and the warmth of Filipino Christmases long ago.
Merry, Merry Christmas! For me, I am going to be making a roulade of bangus with a mango beurre blanc. So we are celebrating, what it was like back then in the olden times, mga 60s, 70s. So roulades and terrines are basically the inspiration for what we have, the embutidos, the galantinas. So I'm gonna be starting with my mangoes. So it's a mixture of green and ripe mangoes. So this sauce, being a beurre blanc, is of course heavy cream, reduced, mounted with butter. Since mangoes are so readily available, it would just make sense for them to add this into the sauce. We have our ripe mangoes here. I'm gonna start peeling my green mango. Because this is so sour, I'm just gonna go in for one. Beurre blancs usually have wine, but it just makes sense to use green mango as sort of that source of acid. Add my mangoes in. I'm gonna go in for 3 cheeks of mangoes and 1 whole green mango. Add in my cream and let the magic start. Okay, sauce goes in. You can see how kind of thick that is. That's gonna loosen up as the heat kind of touches it. I'm gonna add salt and pepper because as of now, it tastes sort of like a dessert. Give that a stir. I wanna watch this constantly. I don't want the kind of milk solids to separate since it's already a blend. I'm gonna add my butter. So this is about 2 to 3 tablespoons. I'm gonna go by feel because it will also depend on the cream you're using. The roulade is using the bangus belly. What I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be getting 2 boneless bangus, and then I'm gonna cut off the narrow part of the tail and the widest part of the head. Cut the fins at the bottom. From here, I season with a salt and pepper. I rub it with oil and white wine. So I'm gonna add this here. Next, I'm gonna go in with some white wine, just a little bit. I have my mushrooms, put that in the center. So I have here my washed pechay. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna use some cling wrap to steam my roulade. Add this bangus in, skin side down, and then roll it. Go in like this, pushing in as I go from here and roll it with my cling wrap. Now from here, I can twist, roll it in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna poke a hole for the air, and there's my bangus roulade. So for these, I'm just gonna be steaming them until they're ready. So this will take about 5 to 10 minutes. And I'll be back and we can start plating.
And I'm making Parol Terrine of dried fruits in ilang-ilang sauce. This was from the book written in 1998 titled Pasko. And I think it's very interesting because it was written by Alto Cocina. And there they were showing different types of recipes that were written back in the day. I'm starting the recipe, of course, with some dried fruits. You can choose whatever dried fruits you like. And then we're just gonna put it all in a bowl and soak it with some apple juice. So terrine is a French dish that's similar to like a loaf style where it's like usually meat or fish. But in this recipe, they used dried fruit. As we know that in the Philippines, parol is very important during Christmas. It's basically a symbol during the holiday season. And the dried fruits is gonna make the Parol Terrine look very colorful and festive. Here we have all the dried fruits. I'm just gonna add in some apple juice. While this is soaking, let's work on our gelatin or gulaman mixture. Here we have some sparkling drink. We'll just put it in the pot. This is what's gonna give the terrine some flavor. To sweeten things, we are going to add some honey. But if you want it to be less sweet because our dried fruits are on the sweeter side, then you can completely lessen that also. I'm going to add the apple juice that we used to soak the fruits. While that's simmering, we have our bundt pan. We're gonna make it look like a parol using our dried fruits. Again, you can decorate however way you like. I'm just gonna use my imagination and design it the way I feel like. Now we'll add some of the gelatin mixture. I'll just strain it, gently pour it. I'll wait for this to set a little bit just so I can also add more like fruits in the center to make it pretty. The top layer of the gelatin, it's set enough for us to layer a bit more fruits. So again, I'm just gonna add a little bit more just for some decoration. Gently put it on top to make sure that the gelatin won't break. We will now add the last parts of our gelatin. We will let this set for a few hours or until okay na siya, i-flip over into a plate. For our custard, we will be putting in our egg yolks and sugar. To this, I'm going to add our cream and milk. Let's also add the zest. We can add as much ilang-ilang essence as we like. Bango. Let me just add first a tablespoon. Let's mix. Now that our sauce has simmered, we can let this cool down so we can serve our terrine already. Ta-da! This is our Parol Terrine of dried fruits, and here we have our ilang-ilang sauce.
So Dulong is quite affordable and very easy to get, especially back then. And it doesn't really count as a celebratory meal, but obviously for lower income families during the holidays, they would always serve whatever's around. So the recipe calls for a lot of garlic. I'm not gonna finely crush it. For this sauteed dulong in garlic, we'll serve it with a Pinoy melba toast. So usually melba toasts are mini baguettes that are sliced thinly and toasted. Tayo, we're using pandelitos. Basically, you're just coming up with a vessel to eat your dulong with. Wider surface area, I'm gonna slice it like so. Tapos pwede mo i-toast sa pan, you can toast it. Right, so when making melba toast at home, pwede mo siyang pagtabi-tabihin. Kasi ang objective mo dito, hindi para i-bake siya ulit. It's to remove the moisture so that it becomes toasted and crispy. So I'm gonna put this in the oven for at least 15 minutes at around 100 degrees Celsius or 210 degrees Fahrenheit. Still with a cold pan, I'll add my olive oil, followed by my garlic. We're slowly bringing the heat up para yung garlic natin will gently cook. Cook it over low heat, 30 seconds to 1 minute. Pag nag-tender na yung garlic, we're gonna add our dulong. So when I buy dulong sa palengke, usually I rinse them a bit para lang mas mabawasan pa yung alat. So sa mga tao mas familiar kayo sa dulong na okoy, here's how to serve it na medyo level up. Kind of gourmet, kind of perfect for celebration, for gifts. Kanina, translucent. Now, the color is solid white. Good to go. If you want to add dried herbs, by default, tapos na yung recipe. You can adjust the seasoning with some salt, some pepper, and I'll squeeze in some lemon. Parang kanape yung labas nitong Christmas dish na to. When you toast something at a very low temp, that's how you make melba toast or a vessel for your appetizers. See, you draw the moisture out, it becomes toasted, but you don't get much color. So this is pandesal. So it's a bit sweet, perfect for our dulong. Last few touches, onting salt pa. Finishing salt naman to. Onting pepper, olive oil, extra virgin, Then just, serve it with some greens.
Hi, I'm Ina and I'll be making meat turnovers. We were introduced by the Americans, their way of cooking. We also learned techniques, their ingredients, and their holiday baking and pastries. One of those influences is the meat turnover, a very quick, portable baked good that became popular because it's so easy to make and it's easy to eat on the go. I have here some garlic. I'm just gonna mince it. Over time, we adapted this concept here in the Philippines. We blended it with some Spanish influences, made it Filipino. So that's what we call today as empanada. But today, I'm gonna be using American-style fillings. I have here onion. You can pre-cook your potatoes if masyadong malaki yung hiwa nyo. Kasi pag masyadong malaki, it tends to be raw in the inside. So back then, the Americans used the best products that they have. Duck, meat, flank. So from pies, it eventually became meat turnovers so that lahat, especially the working class, makakatikim sila. Okay, ang dami na nating patatas. Saute na natin siya. I'm gonna add my onions in. Ground beef in. Yung ground beef natin, nagba-brown na. I'm gonna set it aside like this. Tas, i-add ko yung patatas dito. I'm just gonna let this cook on the side. Okay, I think it's all good now. I'm just gonna incorporate everything together. Pepper. And some salt. And our raisins. Yan. And that's good. Ito na yung ating filling. Now we're gonna make our pastry shells. I have here 3 cups all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup sugar, 1/2 teaspoon salt. Mix muna natin yung dry ingredients. 1/2 cup of water, 1/3 cup oil. And it says that you have to put 3 egg yolks. So meat turnovers are actually eaten during travels. And nakarating siya dito sa Pilipinas, which is now popular. So ayun, cling wrap lang natin siya and rest it sa fridge for about an hour. I have here my circle dough. So medyo natin ko pa siya ng konti. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the filling here sa kabila. We're gonna add a bit of egg whites. And now I'm gonna turn it over like this, like a pocket. See? Nagmumukha na siyang empanada. I'm just gonna do a really simple seal with a fork. So para hindi bumukas yung ating meat turnover, i-poke natin siya para hindi siya lumobo. Yay! And that is our meat turnover. I have here my hot oil. Lagay na natin yung ating meat turnovers. Make sure it's not too crowded inside. So it's about 1 minute per side. One sign na okay na siya is it will start floating.
I will be making Divine Food for the Gods, a recipe that actually reflects what Christmas in the early 1900s is. I actually got this recipe from Pasko, the Philippine Christmas. Filipino food historian Tita Felice Santa Maria actually says that in the early 1900s, Filipinos actually kept foreign influences if they fit our lifestyle. Dried fruits were used during that time because since walang refrigeration before then, very perfect to siya because it lasts or hindi siya madaling mapanis. Just gonna combine all our dried fruits first. Dates, raisins, cranberries. We are gonna toss this in flour, Now let's give that a light, quick toss. We're gonna add in our eggs. So for our eggs, we're going to lightly beat this lang. Then we're gonna lightly beat that. We're gonna add it to our mixture here. Then at the same time, lagyan na din natin ang ating honey. Then we're gonna mix our nuts. We are going to add hot water. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup, but half muna ilalagay ko. It should be like a dough-like consistency. Okay, so I think meron na tayong dough-like consistency. It's now time to put this in our pan. I have here a lined baking pan. You're just going to flatten it here. The food for the gods, Filipinos actually localized the recipe for this. So, hindi siya buttery, hindi siya ganun ka-heavy on sugar kasi we made use of kung ano man yung available to the local market. At the same time, we made the recipe simpler din para mas madali siyang sundan. So, you can slice this into bars. So, pwede to siya i-pre-make before the celebration para you can focus your energy, lalo na pag Christmas, to other menu mo na lulutuin.
I'm Sam, and we are making Lengua Mechada today. It was a celebratory dish, so hindi siya masyadong pang-everyday. It wasn't until the Americans came in, they brought in refrigerators, ovens for longer bracing cooking techniques. It was possible to make lengua na for like everyday consumption. So in a heavy pot of boiling water, just gonna dunk our lengua straight in. We are gonna use 1 white onion. You can use red if you want, but white onion brings out the natural sweetness of the dish. So the onion, since it is a long braise, just roughly chop them down. Lengua was brought in by the Spaniards. It's a very tedious dish to make. Takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but the end result, super, super good. All right, in a heavy bottom pot, add lots of oil. Gonna slowly saute our onion. If you can smell the aromas now, it's time to put in our garlic. I'm just gonna wait for this to brown a bit, and then we're gonna deglaze it with red wine. To that, we are gonna add in our tomatoes, 3 to 4. We're just gonna break them. You can use fresh for this, or canned as well, it's fine. After that, we're gonna deglaze it with red wine, or you can use any liquor you have. And now we can add in our tomato sauce. We're just gonna let this reduce a bit before adding in our lengua. All right, it has been about, not gonna lie, mga 45 minutes though. And I think it's because it depends on the tongue. Some tongues, yung sinew niya, madali lang matanggal, especially if I think young ang cow, but this one I think is an old one. So take your time, wag mong madaliin until such time na pwede na siyang matanggal like so. Now, it is up to you if you're gonna trim this part, obviously for presentation, but this is really edible. But since it's a handaan, we obviously need to make it look presentable then. So, we're just gonna take this off. So, we have here smoked bacon, about that much. To that, we're gonna add our lengua. And we're gonna slowly braise this. Now, our lengua is tender enough. In order for us to have this presented really well, is we're gonna trim it.
Okay mga anak, salamat sa mga pagkain na dinala nyo. Ako na mauuna. I'm grateful for...
Akala ko nakapikit.
If you compare this table to what you have during Noche Buena, it's really different. Yung mga out of necessity dati, parang medyo for leisure na rin yan. Kahit, like, yung ginawa mo.
Especially the lengua. And to think that noon, they just discard that. But now it's really expensive.
Ito, Dulong, makikita niyo to kapag malapit sa mga fishery towns. Kasi mura lang siya. Tapos yun nga, ang dami. Sipin mo ito siguro mga 1/4 kilo, 200 grams lang yan. Pero ilang pandelitos na yung makakain natin.
Pero alam nyo ba na yung mga like sweets na ganito, ever since pa talaga, before pa the 1900s, when we do celebrations, we have sweet treats talaga.
No, I wanted to add to what Nika mentioned. Because if you notice, there's always mga preserved fruits. And it's because back in the day, it's an expensive thing to have.
Right.
Like when you bring that, parang wow, ang social.
Let's start tasting
Can we eat?
Appetizer.
Yeah, let's eat. I feel like Noche Buena now is more grand and mas intentional kasi people really do contribute.
Noche Buena looks different for every family.
Got it.
So it also depends syempre on the budget of the family.
Location too.
Location, what they want to serve their family and friends,
Alright, well, Noche Buena, I don't know how important it is to you guys, but for me, it's always something that I look forward to every year. Ano yung nire-represent or how do you feel about Noche Buena?
So, yan yung para sa akin time na magkakasama-sama ang buong pamilya, ako sa dessert, yung
That sounds fun.
yung mom ko sa roasted chicken, yung dad ko sa hams.
Horse
Ako
girls.
naman, I always look forward talaga sa Christmas, New Year. Kasi doon nagsama-sama yung family, yung mga nasa abroad na family ko, umuwi talaga for Christmas.
That's cool.
Galing Canada.
Pero paano yung Noche Buena nyo? Do you same as Nika? May kanya-kanya ang bag or really just freestyle?
Hindi. Actually, wala akong alam kasi kumakain lang ako.
And that's the
Pero I
best
think-
way. Ikaw, Sam, do you do...
We always do celebrate, but I think more on like family. It's a time of reflecting what you guys did throughout the year.
For me, Noche Buena is always about togetherness, which is what I love about the Filipino culture. Whatever it is you do in life, like you always come together to celebrate Christmas. That's what I love. And
Now, I'm gonna ask a question. Do you cook?
do I cook? Well, no, in our family, I feel like because we want to take a break, so we always
Yes.
just
Oh yeah,
get
that makes
food.
sense.
Yeah, we get the
more
food
of-
that we like to eat. And
Do you guys feel like we cooked more before though than now?
I feel like yes.
No?
Yeah.
Like now, imposibleng walang takeout.
Ikaw, Seth, what's Noche Buena to you and your fam?
I think Noche Buena for me also is about big time about family because when it's the regular day, we don't really get to spend as much time together because all of our works are very different.
Right.
Some work graveyard shifts, some work really morning, some work mid. And Christmas is one that we really make sure that we put in time and effort to.
Gets. So, Self, anong Noche Buena para sa...
Dati pa, ano yung
Parang mga anak, salamat sa pagtanong.
Nung bata ka pa?
No, like what I said kanina, I really look forward to Christmas. Tas obviously, it can't always be grand. So I've learned to like really make do and make more out of what you already have. Kahit gifts from friends, yung mga ignored fruitcakes or ignored ham dyan, we figure out ways to prepare it.
Yeah.
And during the holidays, specifically kapag preparing for Noche Buena, parang nandidilim yung paningin ko, tapos biglang pagtingin ko, wala na laman yung bangko ko. From vacation to Noche Buena, Medianoche, I always love cooking for my family or friends who are there. You just don't feel tired when you're cooking for people you love. We tried recipes and so far, everything was good, surprisingly. I mean, as is, we tried it, except yung Dulong, we had to figure it out on its own. But cool, great job,
really
guys.
surprised.
Honestly,
Yeah. Merry
Christmas.
Christmas!
Merry
One,
Christmas.
see, love, joy, hope. Ay, 1, 2, 3. Merry Christmas this year.
Da, 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 da.